clap anyway?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show. Whenever it comes out, classic Doctor Who review podcast. That's also a new Doctor Who review podcast, and then occasionally a Dune related podcast.
It's an accidental Dune podcast. It's
Dan,
fantastic. Hey.
I got us the.
Oh my god! Wait, is that a flashlight?
Wait, it's the famous popcorn bucket that my wife surprised me with.
I didn't know that there was such a. I am learning about the existence of this
right now.
Yes, I had
no
idea.
You haven't heard all the stuff about the.
I tried not to. I didn't want to see anything about.
Did you
Dune
ever
at all.
see Naked Lunch? Did you ever see the David Cronenberg Naked Lunch movie where he's talking to the Smith Corona typewriter?
Think you could rub some of this powder on my lips?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, which is reminiscent of, it's all fine, Dan. It's Dune bucket. She had to get it for me. It's the dumbest, best thing ever.
Yeah. You have a fantastic wife.
Now you can look up the cast and crew, and everyone else is having a field day with the Dune bucket.
The popcorn bucket has sort of caused a little bit of a frenzy. Dare you proud owners of it yet?
No, I don't think he's seen it yet.
This is the second time I've heard of it.
Good. I'm okay.
Reach in?
That's not okay.
Reach in and tell me what happens when you try to.
If I see a bunch of people in the theater with one of those freaking buckets in their hand, I'll be like, okay, you're an idiot.
The design is very strange. Like, you don't want to put your hand in here to get popcorn out.
And isn't it going to be it's going to try to pull the popcorn out of your hand?
It's going to try to, and that's
like
disrespectful to Shai Hulud. I mean,
this is
seriously.
I guess if you can get the popcorn out, I mean, then the Shai Hulud has accepted you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan, that's speaking of Dune popcorn buckets.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about Dune a little bit?
We've both. You watched it yesterday. I watched it. Watch it Friday.
Yep.
Before we begin.
Yes.
What
is Dune?
We will spoil things within the book Dune.
Yep.
The David Lynch movie Dune. The Denis Villeneuve Part 1 and Part 2 Dune. However,
maybe some children of Dune as well.
No, that's where I'm saying
Dune Messiah. I mean,
I'm not spoiling anything.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Dune Messiah.
All right, we will,
because I barely remember it.
If we get to any Dune, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, because I feel like a lot of people, the chances of them reading Dune are pretty high for this audience, I would think. But not a lot of people have read Dune Messiah, and I think it will inspire people to read the book for the first time if they haven't, and then jump into Dune Messiah. And I don't want to take that away from them.
Okay.
But
I mean, I wasn't going to spoil it at the beginning of it, but whatever.
We can, right. And the end of this movie pushes into Dune Messiah in a way that I think we could talk about it without ruining it.
That's the part I wanted to talk about. Okay, let's talk about it.
Dan.
Eric, first of all.
Yes.
Dune, huh?
Yeah.
That's our insightful review. Okay, so I went to see,
are you going to start?
I don't even know if this matters.
Sure.
But I went to see it in an IMAX format, but it wasn't like the big wrap around, like I have to turn my neck to, like it was the size of a regular movie theater.
You had texted me. You had texted me that, and to my understanding, IMAX is what you saw. It is just a taller format, not necessarily a wraparound format. Like I've seen a few IMAX movies, and it's just it's basically going back to 4:3 and using more of the top and bottom.
It has been a very long time since I've gone to see an IMAX because I don't particularly enjoy the experience, but I wanted to see it in maybe a higher end projection of it. I wanted the sound to be good. But yeah, so it is basically the 4:3 is 77 millimeter,
and it's fully IMAX, right? The entire time, like some
it doesn't
films,
back and
like
forth.
Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Certain scenes would open up. Yeah, I saw Dune 1 in IMAX, and the whole thing is just.
So what I was trying to do at certain points, I mean, I was absorbed in the movie, and I spoiler, loved it. But I was trying to imagine what the almost 2-to-1 is the cinematic regular version. It's almost a 2-to-1 aspect ratio,
which is how I saw it.
Which is way wide, like super. That's almost as wide as the original Jaws and CinemaScope, like gigantic wide. I'm trying to picture how that crop would work in some of these because the IMAX felt really comfortably framed in a lot of ways.
I will tell you, it works perfectly.
I don't know how it worked, but I know no doubt. I'm sure that he's not going to release a version that's like, well, this is the shit version that no one should watch. So I'm sure it was great. I can't wait to see it, because I'll go see it again, and I'll probably just see it in a regular format and save the extra whatever it is, $6. But anyway, so we both saw it in 2 different formats. I don't know if that matters at all.
It does
honestly.
Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I saw the first movie, part 1, in usually standard first, and then IMAX, and maybe I'll do that again. But I'm not a huge IMAX fan. I love movies.
Famously.
I like when, that for a while I was doing the AMC opening where I would talk about the silver screen.
Yeah. I don't know why they switched to Nicole Kidman. I think her rates were cheaper, right?
It's fine. No, but
oh my God! When they actually played that, when they played that in the theater, people literally laughed out loud every time it comes on. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
It's too much for me.
Intense.
It's too intense for me. So I prefer a widescreen format anyway. I feel like I can easily get lost in it. There's something about the widescreen that I jive with for whatever reason.
But
I may see this because it is so spectacular, and it's visually so grand, and each of the planets, like, because we go to Giddy Prime, everything feels unique and different while still cohesively working together. Giddy Prime was maybe my favorite part of a series of scenes that I loved.
Yeah.
The whole time I was such like a nerd. Like, I was just sitting in my seat and I was just going, they got it right. They got it right. And just getting so excited, like scene after scene. And there's a number of changes.
Well, tell me the parts that jumped out at you as being like, I didn't know if they were going to be able to do this, but I think they got it.
I think the message of Dune.
Yes.
Right? Like
for sure.
Frank Herbert had always said, like, when talking about Dune, that it was, a cautionary tale about charismatic leaders, and charismatic leaders, I'm probably misquoting him, should come with a warning label, something along those lines. And they really leaned heavily into that in this version of Dune, more than the miniseries and more than the David Lynch film.
Without a doubt.
But in a way that was good. What do you want me to talk about? That stuff that they got right, I think, was 100% that, and visually, and there were things that they added, like in the book, when you learn about the water of life and how they drown a baby sandworm in water, and it's the bile of a drowned newborn worm and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You never actually see that scene that they added with Lady Jessica, like asking how they do it, and then you watch the woman drown the worm and then pull the stuff out. All that stuff was cool.
Terrific.
They just, it's just, they got the whole thing right. I just felt like they nailed the.
To me, I agree.
The evil and the change that happens when you get when they take the water of life, and the Timothy, I thought, was amazing. Like, the performance was much stronger than part 1.
More varied as well. Because it works for the character too. He's going through so much more than, not to say like losing his entire family in the first movie isn't a lot.
That'll change you.
But you spend the majority of the movie with him, kind of in, like, I'm not going to say spoiled brat, but like more in a teenage, like,
Well, there's an innocence to it.
There's an innocence. Right? He doesn't have these responsibilities.
He
doesn't really even want to go to Arrakis. So he spends the majority of the movie just kind of learning and absorbing, and then towards the end is the inciting moment of change, and he grows. But then this is everything that comes after that, and there's even more moments of those change. I agree with all of that. I think the tone is probably the thing they nailed the most, the message. And I know we'll talk about, I'm sure, some of the changes, the relationships. I don't know about watching it in your theater when you saw it, but Stilgard. So all of the as it was written, all the places where it feels like he's kind of reaching to be like, no, this is, everyone laughed. Like they like.
Well, he was
in a way that was everyone
relief,
loved, total comic relief, but
in
a way that
odd,
felt
but
so,
it worked.
It worked so well because it was still so real and grounded, and maybe it worked for me because having read the book, we know where it's going. So you're like,
right,
actually, he's right, but it just sounds like this fanatic in a way that is still really charismatic. So not just the charismatic leader of Muad'Dib, and I'm never going to say it right because I read it and then I hear it, and I'm Lisa Al Gaib, the voice in the Outer World. So like there is that part of it, but there's also the charismatic followers as well. So like I felt like that was a kind of, I didn't feel that as strongly in the book, but I feel it much more strongly in this. How he was kind of helping spread the message, and of course, there's Lady Jessica doing all that as well, and the Bene Gesserit have been planting this for generations and whatnot. But anyway, sorry.
But that part they blew out. That's not really in the book. The division among the Fremen, they sort of added that younger generation. Of which Chani is a member of, and her friend. That's
the South. The South being
talk about the friend, because I have
the
questions
fundamentalists,
about the friend. Right? Where there's a yeah, exactly. The South is more religious, and that's sort of the older people, and the younger people are more cynical, and they don't really believe in this, and they're aware of the manipulation of the. They planted this legend here, and they're just using it to control us. Like all of that stuff was added, and in the book. There's
but I want to say, and I think. I don't know why Denis did this, and I haven't seen any interviews because, like I said, I wanted to go into this as blank as possible before seeing it. But I wonder how much of that is purely for story mechanics, planning on where he's going to go if the third movie is going to get made, which it looks like it's going to. So how much of that was like to service this movie, and how much of it instead was an artistic choice to comment more on the times that we're in?
I think
it does
latter.
Because it feels very much to the point. Some of it was actually really uncomfortable in that way, but. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know where he was coming at. Maybe both of those are the case. Maybe there's something third.
Well,
it really does feel like reaction from when the book was written to now, and how that
and giving the Fremen more of a voice and more of like an awareness of what's happening.
Well, and a richness of multiple viewpoints.
Points of
not
view,
this one homogenous. Yeah, okay.
The time crunch, I'm not as a big fan of, but I guess I kind of understand that they have to do it because of Alia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in the book, Paul's about 15 years old. At the end of the events after House Atreides falls, he goes off into the desert, and then like 2 or 3 years pass.
3 years,
He's
I think,
close to like 17, 18 or something when they finally face the Emperor. We've condensed that time frame into less than 9 months, right? Because Jessica's pregnant, and then she still hasn't given birth to the baby. And so all of that stuff happens. And there is, as much as I love the pacing, and the pacing is great, it's never a dull moment. It chugs along the whole time. It does feel a little rushed. Right at the point that Paul is like, hey, I don't want, he sees all of these paths. He knows what's going to happen if he goes to the South. He knows about the Holy War. He knows all of these things, and he's reluctant to do it. At that moment when he's, decides to go, it's like, bam. And then all of a sudden he's, they're riding the worms, bam. And then he's walking up, he's taking the Water of Life, bam. And then like, even in the book, when he takes the Water of Life, he's like at a commission for like weeks, nearly dead. In this, it's like he takes the Water of Life, and all of a sudden they're calling Chani over, and she's taking the ornithopter in. So it's like very condensed.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden they're going. And I guess they did that because they weren't going to have Alia in it, so she would talk via the.
That was the biggest change.
That was kind of
obviously.
Interesting, but I thought it was different.
I thought it worked really well, and I thought, oh my god, I know I always bring this up, but like. Maybe perfect production design in every aspect. So we talk about the planets and the world and everything. But speaking of Alia specifically, we very, very early in the movie, you get the revelation. I don't know if they even mentioned it in the first movie. You get the revelation of Lady Jessica being pregnant because you see the embryo inside her. And then when she takes the Water of Life, the blue swirling going around it. So you know or at least you have a sense of what's happening. Like, oh, this can't be good for the baby. But if you read the books, you're like, oh, this is a really cool representation of what's going to happen, and the eyes open, and it's it was crazy.
I can't remember because I have not seen part 1 in a bit. But does one of Paul's visions see his mother with the baby?
I don't.
Like, is the audience aware?
So. Gosh,
because in the book,
don't remember.
He and we'll talk about the Baron Harkonnen, the fact that they are Harkonnen. That happens way earlier in the book, when Paul and Jessica first are abandoned to the desert, let the desert take them, that whole scene, and they're in the tent.
Mm-hmm.
Paul becomes aware his dad's dead, and all the spice is in him, and he starts seeing the future, and he's like, I know you carry my sister in your womb, and I know that blood is Harkonnen, and the mom's aware of it. So
does
it's
that
like
happen in the movie? I don't remember if it happens.
That certainly doesn't.
That definitely doesn't
the Harkonnen reveal.
No,
but
that for sure. But the baby,
when he
I
has
don't know.
visions, like he sees the Holy War and he sees the future, does he see the baby? Because I feel like I watched like because my wife went to see it with me, and she wanted like a catch up on Dune Part 1 video, and I'm pretty sure they show a scene of like, because for me it's hard being in this house because I can't say anything because I'm like, I don't know if that was in the book or if they got to that part yet or if they missed that part. And I'm pretty sure maybe he does see sort of the vision. So there's some idea that there is a baby coming.
Parts. Yeah, that was one of the harder parts of the first film, was the way that he represented the visions, which I think artistically was right, and I think it makes a lot of sense. But it's so confused, which is what Paul is experiencing. Before he has the Water of Life, he sees the visions, but they're fragments. He can't make sense of them. He can't tell which is more
and there's different
possible
paths.
than the other. So I as a viewer, I can't remember actually what was in all of the different ones either.
But that is a big change, right? That she doesn't actually give birth. The change makes sense because it allows Paul to kill the Emperor. In the book, Aaliyah kills. I'm sorry, the Baron.
Other way around. Yeah,
the Baron. Right. So like in the book, Aaliyah kills the Baron. This gives Paul that closure. Same thing, like in the book, the Emperor kills Raban, but in this they give it to Gurney Howard.
Yep.
So that's like a night, like those types of changes that they made.
They're fine.
Make sense.
I was waiting for the fight between
Aaliyah, though, a little bit.
Okay, so we'll stick for that for a second. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would have been hard to top Lynch's representation of Aaliyah because it was so unsettling in the right way, I think, in the perfect way. But this was unsettling in a different way, that Lady Jessica's talking to her unborn fetus and they're having full conversations.
Yeah,
that was great. Well, and when she does, Lady Jessica does what is the name of it? The commanding voice.
Right, the voice.
The voice. I guess that's what it's called. The voice. She does at one point, and I didn't know if it was her or Aaliyah or both. The voices coming out.
Well,
it was
says
an interesting way that it happened.
She does a plural, like we, or she says
that's
we
why
or they or something.
And it was like that was super unsettling in a different way. That was really good.
Yes, I mean hinting at potential future situations. Right, it's almost that Lady Jessica is almost lost control because she does switch. Her personality switches, and she's like almost a villain. Post Water of Life taking, the way she's walking around manipulating people, and Ali is talking to her like, find the weakest here, and then it's all about making it work best for
I don't know
her.
That's necessarily evil, but like, yes, I think up to this point, she
yes, exploiting people for your own gains, is it evil?
But it depends on justifying the ends, man.
Well,
but what I mean is to the point in the movie before she drinks the Water of Life, it felt like she was serving the Bene Gesserit and their mission protectorate, that they've been establishing. She's been doing it, but she didn't feel like to me, a zealot, or like, this is what I have to do, this is what I'm doing to survive, sort of, and I'm doing it for my son and for lineage. But after she takes the Water of Life, it's like, no, this is my mission now. I'm taking over. I'm doing it in a different way. So maybe she was always this way, but after that, she's much more in the driver's seat about all of it, to the point where she's usurping.
That's what I mean. Like once she takes the water, she becomes, I would say, almost the villain. You're clearly team exploit. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's
order at all costs.
The entire Bene Gesserit philosophy is plans and plans within plans, setting all these things up and using them and finding levers that manipulate people, and that was great. That's a scene you don't get in the book. Like the whole Lady Fenring subplot with Fade is in the book and the arena, but like getting that one scene where she goes and she seduces him, and then she sort of is like, all the Bene Gesserits are meeting, and you just get like a peek into
how they work
they've been
together
operating for so many centuries. That was amazing.
She secured his lineage. I mean, just like, it was crazy. That was all really good. I'm fine without having seen Aaliyah so far, except we get the flash forward to Dune.
Well, this is the thing that doesn't this still doesn't make sense to me, because She's the same age as Timothy Chalamet, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she's supposed to be 17 years young, or I guess 15 years younger.
Well, I don't think his character is 15 at the beginning of the movie. I don't think they ever established that he's 15. He's supposed to be young and naive and inexperienced.
I don't remember if they do establish it.
I don't think that. I mean,
but in any case, like however old he is, he's that many years older than his sister, who is clearly the same age as him.
Right.
And I hope they don't age him with CGI or something, or they just let it roll and say like, okay, I guess
so if
they look the same age, but
let's say he starts the first movie at, let's say, like 18, and then only less than a year has passed for the second movie.
So he's 19. And she's
so
0.
She is 0. Very good. But so he could be in his mid 30s when she's that. So you don't have to go like, oh, he has to have like wrinkles and gray hair and.
I know, but he's got a young face anyway, so it just sort of kills the illusion. We'll see where that goes. Younger sister.
Until
and you lose the juxtaposition
together.
You lose like a young child. Although I wonder this. I said I would not spoil Children of Dune or Dune Messiah. Maybe she's not even in Dune Messiah, and there's another actress who's younger, and that's a version of her from Dune Messiah.
I mean, I think
that is possible.
I think that is the version of her from Dune Messiah. I think that is planting that for the eventual third movie, and it is not at all inconceivable that they're going to do some amount of the Holy War has started. We're going to see some of the Holy War and then get into Dune Messiah, where he's already been the Emperor for a while. So we might get a portion of the next movie covering an area that I guess the books didn't really cover.
Yeah, the second book is like 12 years or so after the events of.
We might see some of that just to fill in some of the gaps and give it a little bit more of grounding, and maybe we see
I think younger.
So.
But again, I think that my point still stands that they're why cast her, as much as I like her, if she's supposed to play a little sister older. That's 18 years younger.
Right.
I mean, clearly they're like 6 months apart.
I mean, yeah. I don't know.
It's fine. It's fine.
We'll see what happens. Who knows? Who knows what the water of life does to the aging process of a gestating fetus?
And I wish too, while I'm complaining,
please do.
Why show her at all? She's hardly in the movie. The movie had pretty much was a few days away. Like, why have her at that event and then have me not? I would have liked to have seen that. Well, like, that's she's got to be. You know what I mean? Like, why?
Well, so isn't your question actually more not why is she in the movie, but why was she in any of the press events for it?
Let her
that's
be
what
I'm saying.
Movie. Oh, okay.
No,
you
I'm
said
saying, why did they spoil that? It was only a few days before the premiere. It would have been like, oh, okay. I don't know. It's fine. It's all fine. Yeah. She's a great character. I like her as an actress, so I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, but let's talk about
Giddy Prime.
Well, Fade Routha for sure.
Yeah. He was fantastic.
Wow. Just
also different take. Because
he's very much like Sting. I thought it was very
Well, what I mean was in the book he is portrayed as being very attractive. There is like and I'm glad they walked away from this, but there's like a whole homosexual equating with evil trope that people have complained about that's very heavily into the Baron. And the Baron, there's some of that in the movie, like when they kiss.
The kiss part, which I think would only nod to
wants his nephew in all ways.
Yes.
He's also, both of them, I think, but definitely the Baron is constantly killing boys and sleeping with boys. And you see that, but then they're shaved-headed women, right? There's that scene very early on. But then, as I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, well, he is attractive for Harkonnens."
Yeah,
so, like that part sort of worked. He the way he commanded the scene and just the few scenes that he was really in, was phenomenal. Like he's like
could not take your eyes off of him.
Great balance of being like an attractive, like.
Heroic,
charismatic figure, and someone you're absolutely
terrified
is going to torture you in a terrible, horrible way.
But without really being good. Like not at all scenery chewing, not mustache twirly, very like coiled snake that could strike at any second kind of danger, as opposed to like, I'm over the top and crazy. Like, he had a couple of those moments just to show you like the way he just casually killed people. Amazing. Right. Licking the knife to test it, the point of the blade, like crazy stuff. But more of the, oh my God, I don't know when he's going to do something nuts, as opposed to he's constantly. Yeah, it was really, really good. He's beautiful in this movie. Again, for a Harkonnen, stunning, and I think that worked really, really, really well.
No, he was great, and the voice that he chose to use. You know, people are always talking about how he adapted that Elvis voice and has not lost it. Have you seen that where like people have clips of before Elvis and after Elvis and whatever? I thought it was great. So, everything
he's doing. He's also in the Apple show Masters of the Air.
Yeah,
I think it's called. So he's a very, very similar character again. Like has the same sort of voice. But I felt like he actually did some sort of, I don't know, Getty Prime accent or something. There was something a little bit different to it. Which anyway, it was great.
No,
I thought
it was really, really good, and it worked really well. The Getty Prime scene.
Every time they come into the sunlight from the black sun.
The black sun.
Oh,
now when I saw that in the trailer, like the initial trailer, it's so weird because you're like, oh, is it black and white?
Why is it black and white?
What a strange artistic choice, which I would have been cool with anyway. Like, oh, that's just cool.
Just do it.
But it has world logic. You know, as they walk under the black sun, it's like a black light, and like that scene when the Bene Gesserit are walking in their black robes, and then the black robes become white robes.
I loved it. It was so good.
And the weirdos with the
horn heads,
that are all around, which I don't remember them in the book.
I don't think they are.
I don't remember anyone sticking, around them. There is the fight in the book, and they don't drug the guy in the book. All of that is from from the story. But that adding that weird element of those people just looked cool.
Great. But it was also like
it
was helping to show. Oh, the fireworks look great. How do we make that happen? It was really cool. The kind of liquidy splash, but like the horn people around. I like that scene of like they didn't drug the one. Let's give him his birthday. Let him kind of stand on his own. But like, there's also the protectors. I guess they were there to protect him just in case.
Yeah, and
but,
he keeps someone from running there. So like keep the fight.
It was a very quick way to give you, as an audience, more insight into the character. And it looked so cool. It just looked.
It was amazing,
scary, and
visually,
it was otherworld, like a nightmare. It was beautiful. I loved that.
And
that was great.
The Lady Fenring scene after that, when she's like walking around and manipulating him, like in that hallway. That was
she's
cool.
in this so much less than in the book. I feel like there's a lot more on Getty Prime because there was all like the court scenes and like they're going to there's a lot of lead up to
that happens, and all of the stuff with her husband is gone.
Yes,
right?
That's what I mean. The essential parts there, and that was necessary, but it was just like everything else was cut down. But she was incredible
great.
with a very small role. Incredible.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and read the book. I don't remember her. I know it's implied that they want to preserve the Harkonnen bloodline.
Yes.
But she points to her chest, like her stomach, and is like, I saved the bloodline. So she's pregnant with a Harkonnen, which is not an element I remember being in the book. Although I know she's going to interview him to see if about preserving the bloodline. So I'd have to revisit that scene. Because I don't remember if it's as explicit that she gets pregnant. Because what does that mean?
But either way, it's not a divergence from the book because it is the plan and everything. So yeah, it all still works together, even if it is slightly different.
Yeah, that was so cool. That was like visually was amazing.
What did you
think
of
just dying at that whole entire sequence? I was just
everything on Getty Prime
getting the vapors.
It was just great. So two more things I want to talk about. The actual worm riding, which is probably the big marquee thing that people who aren't like steeped in Dune are like, oh, that looks amazing. Like, it's actually see that how fast they move, like the sense of scale and speed presented here was done so beautifully, and it really almost visually explained how the worm riding works. Where in the book they explain like you pull up the vent so that it doesn't because it doesn't want to touch the sand, so you can get it to roll in different directions, but they really just show it beautifully. You see like the little pore underneath the scale as you're lifting it up. Like, it looks so good. But just like how fast they're moving. And I always pictured them, I guess maybe I got it more from having seen Lynch's Dune and then read the books. Like, I just pictured them like more riding on top of the sand, as opposed to what they were doing here is really swimming through the sand and swimming through like the dunes, like the waves. It was a much more liquid sort of feel. It was great. I loved that a lot.
Yeah, that was cool.
I got nothing else to add. I just wanted to say,
the worm stuff was great, and the worm stuff at the end when the atomics blow the shield wall, and then the worms are coming through, and you see just the storm, and then they come out, like the sense of scale and the epicness of that battle.
Well, that battle was
amazing,
unreal. I don't know how they set up that entire encampment in what seemed like maybe 5 minutes. Whatever, space technology, they were able to do it. But just that big mirrored ship sitting above it, and then everything laid out beneath, and like you said, like the battle scene of the worms coming in was incredible. I think a small detail that I really love is whenever all of the great houses come to respond to the message, and they're all just orbiting the planet. It just looks naturalistic, these little spaceships in the sky.
Yeah,
like, it
for
just
whatever CGI is in this,
so good.
For whatever CGI is in this, and there's plenty of CGI.
There's a lot of
in it. You can't feel it. Like you don't notice it. Like it feels real. Like it's some of the best visual effects I've seen in I don't know how long. Sometimes, because a lot of times you do see, whether it's a Marvel movie or whatever, you're like, it takes you out of it. It feels unreal. Whereas
Spider-Man swinging between the buildings, and it's like, okay, that is just that's
perfect.
Fake. This all felt super real. The worms felt real. Everything felt great.
Let's back up and talk about Team Fremen. So Chani's friend, who I don't know if is ever name dropped. I don't know if she has a name.
I don't recall a character like that specifically in the book either.
She's not in the book, but she's like a big part of it.
Great.
And then all of a sudden disappears, right? And so there's that scene where
she doesn't disappear.
She's left behind, and she's like, "Oh, we found this spy."
Yeah.
And then he tortures her.
Yeah.
That scene feels like we're missing something. Like either there was a scene later, and then they were like, "How do we get rid of her?" Like that scene has no value, really. Like, I mean, we already know he's crazy.
It was just to show. I think
it's just to get rid of a character that has like a lot of screen time leading up to it, and then just sort of disappears. So my personal take is something was cut, whether it was more to that scene and why she stayed back.
Yeah,
like it's just like all of a sudden we're watching the scene. Why did she stay back? She's staying back as a spy. She doesn't give up any information. He's going to torture her. I feel like there was more to that.
I agree. I think we did miss why she was there, but I think it didn't serve just the purpose of showing like he's crazy. We've already seen that. He just slices people.
Yeah, so what purpose does it serve?
I think just to show the complete and utter devastation of that siege. Like
we already got that. We get that with the kids literally walking with blood. I mean,
there's that. Which
your work is done. Yeah, your work is done.
That was
the dead birds falling down. Done.
Right.
Like
I guess
but it feels weird for a character that was.
But this is a character that we know now.
So many.
This is a character that
lines.
had a lot of dialogue, had a lot of influence on Chani, had a lot of comic moments. So I think it was just let's kill a character that we've actually established as someone you should have an emotional relationship with.
Yeah, it was in a
but I agree with you.
They didn't even give her a moment to say like, "I'm staying back to do this" or
something. Yep.
And I feel like that exists. And they were like, "The movie's almost 4 hours. We got to cut something.
We'll get the 6-hour director's cut,
and there will be a cut scene or something."
Yeah.
The other, not a nitpick, I guess.
Major change
is when they do the falling in love montage of Paul and Chani, which I thought their love story was great. I really liked them together.
It was wonderful.
I would have liked more time with them.
Yes.
But he does the thing, is like, "Hey, I'm going to go camping." All Fremen got to camp one night, got to go walk out to that dune hill, got to come back, spend the night. And he's walking. And then all of a sudden she's with him. Like she's watching him. And then she's like, "Oh, walk like this." And in my head, I'm like, she's not there. He's out in the desert. He's hallucinating.
Oh, interesting.
That didn't happen. All of a sudden, then he never camps. And then the next scene, they're together. And then all of a sudden, like, we're moving on. It was just like a weird. It was weird.
That whole section, when she says, like, leading up to that, is like taking bets of whether or not you're going to last a week. And I think you're about us this summer. Like, all of that leading up. There was just a lot of implicit time jumps there that we just don't see. So, yeah, I think you're right.
It was weird to be like, okay, you're about to go spend the night. And then it's never resolved.
We just don't.
You see him on his own, and then she's with him. So did they spend the night together? Unclear, because the next time they're like tying knots, or she's telling him how a wind harvester works, or whatever. Right.
I don't think
she fine.
It was weird. I don't think she should have been there with him at that point. That whole teaching him how to sandwalk, I think was really great, because you see it in the book so often and the way they describe it, but I'd like to see their interpretation of how you do it, and it was.
That was really cool. And then I was like, oh, she's not there. It's a vision, because Stilgar had just warned him about.
Well, at first he thought it was Jamis. He thought that was Jamis there, but it wasn't.
Jamis, right? Because he's constantly he's looking for Jamis. Yeah. Jamis, talk to me. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe it's a memory. He's remembering how she talked.
No, but it was real.
Now he's on his own. He's applying it. But then it just doesn't go anywhere. All of a sudden, it just keeps continuing, and we're like, oh, we're not even camping anymore. Now now my eyes. Well,
speaking of Chani though.
Okay.
To me, this movie.
I got another one for that. Keep going.
This movie was Chani's movie to me. This it hinged so emotionally anyway. For me, hinged so much more on her than it did on Paul, on anyone else. It was. I identified with her so strongly to see this almost Cassandra experience of like, I know what's going to happen. I know why you think you need to do this. I think it's all baloney. Like, you're not this Messiah. You've said to me that you don't think you are, but you're going to use this anyway. And then he takes the water of life and all the plans that are going to happen. It was this tension between how much she loves him and how much she fears what he's going to become. And then seeing the evolution of that happening. She was the emotional weight of the movie for me the whole way through. Where in the book, she was much more just on his side the whole time. I'm not going to say subservient to him, because she teaches him everything, gets him to where he needs to be as he becomes Fedaykin. So she has that kind of mentor role. They fall in love, but then in the book, I think she does become pretty subservient to him throughout, and just does whatever he needs. Whereas in this, she's much more of an equal. And when she leaves at the end and catches an Uber to leave, like, I don't know where she's going. Like that was a huge change, but I really liked that. I'm very interested to see where it's going to go. But again, yes, it was Paul's story, his the cautionary tale of absolute power and what he feels needs to be done. But it was really, I saw it through her eyes of this fear of what's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
She was incredible.
It was wonderful. Interesting. Another change that they made was Liet Kynes in the book is her father, and they did not. They've ignored that, and
I forgot.
More than ignored that, like, it's not a thing, right? Because I feel like that definitely would have come up, which keeps her 100% Fremen verse. From what I remember of the book, right? Liet Kynes' dad is full. I think he's from House Carino. Or some other planet. He marries a Fremen woman. They have a child. That's Liet Kynes. He marries a Fremen woman. He has a child. It's Chani.
Right.
That does not exist. Right. They never mentioned.
Or is it
parents.
mentioned anyway? Right.
I think it would have came up because he just lost his father. She would have lost her father,
that's true.
Or her mother. True. So I feel like that would have been a connection. But they didn't play up on it, and I guess they did it to keep her, because a big part of her thing is our Messiah will be a Fremen, not an outsider, because you are an outsider.
Right.
So I think that's part of why they
will be a Fremen, but like,
she literally says that, and then says, "I know, you are still an outsider."
I'm not disagreeing with you, but like, how does that, with the lore of everything, how does the Messiah is going to be a Fremen, but it's also the voice from the outer world who knows the?
I shouldn't have said Messiah. The leader that will free us from our oppressors will be a Fremen, because she doesn't
in
believe
the movie.
She
does not believe in any of that. I don't remember. I thought she was a believer in the book, though. She really
in the book there are not.
There's no separation
within the Fremen against. They don't like Paul at first. He has to earn their trust, but he beats Jamis, and then he cries, and then they're kind of touched by that. There's the whole buildup of the
no, totally.
Legend,
that's all the same.
But then all of that stuff is the same. But there's no schism within Fremen culture of people saying this is not true, this is true. Everybody believes it's true.
What I'd like, though, I agree with that.
Which adds
what
a complexity to the people that makes it a little
even
bit more
though there is a schism here in the movie that wasn't present in the book. It's not. You said like a warring faction, maybe. I mean, that was just the way you were talking about it. Like, but they're not, though. It isn't a holy war between two tribes, what they could have easily done, the North versus the South, or whatever, the non-believers versus the believers. It's just like some people believe and some people don't. So, like when the Reverend Mother, when Lady Jessica goes into, I think that's when she goes in to drink the water of life, and they're all outside praying, and Chani is sitting there with her group of friends, the one who gets killed later, and they're kind of like joking and laughing, and Stilgar's like, we're praying, shut up. But there's no like animosity between them. It's just like some people believe and some people don't, which I liked. Which if they had made it like that, it wouldn't have worked very well.
In the book, there is like a hierarchy, right? It's like Laet Kynes is sort of their leader in a way in the book. There is that council that meets in the book too. But in this, it's like, hey, we're all equal. Men, women, doesn't matter. We don't have leaders. I mean, it's just different sietches. So they all
they do have leaders from the sietches because
but
they're
there's
all called.
No like, it's a whole point of no one is better than another. We don't have royalty. We don't have kings and queens. We don't have houses, even though they kind of do, but they don't. But everyone meets. All the sietches meet at that big council meeting where Paul speaks, and
that's all based on the meritocracy of being able to kill someone as opposed to bloodline. Right. So there's a difference.
So I feel like in that way, it's more, that's.
Oh my God!
Different ideas. It's not necessarily they're going to go to war over them, but they're going to discuss them, and they have to come to a consensus about what they're going to do.
I'm just glad they didn't go down that path of making it contentious like that. But I just wanted to say, you mentioned like the leaders coming together, and I'm just thinking of Paul's scene coming into that council. First of all, underground and showing the pools of light that you see, and it's hundreds, thousands of people there. I don't know, like incredible. And as he comes in and he's coming in hot, and Lady Jessica's like, slow down, Paul. Like all of that. What a powerful scene. It is one of the most pivotal scenes in the movie.
That was amazing.
He plays it so beautifully. I don't remember because it's been a long time. I've read the book twice, but I immediately forget it after reading it.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since I've read it again. But like the whole like it also reminds me of like a Sally Jesse show when they bring the psychic on. It's like you have a ghost behind you, and they're talking about the letter M. But he does the whole But does he do that in the book where he's like proving? Okay, I don't. I just didn't remember that at all.
He has to prove sort of that he is and about what he says. But he does.
But he does that thing.
He does sort of say like this is this.
Like it worked. It was great.
But the scene, the religious, so like earlier than that. When he's walking through the crowd and you just see like that shot from the aerial shot of him walking through that and they're kind of parting is so like, that's like, is that like Palm Sunday or whatever when Jesus came through, like all of that stuff was so beautiful.
Yes.
And just the idea of like the critique of religion and the fact that he's seeing all these ways to do it and knows that he sort of has to exploit it. He has to play into this whole thing. It was just fascinating.
Yeah.
Everything about it. It was just great.
So, I mean,
should we get to the end? I mean, I'm trying to think of other.
Let's just. I was going to say changes. Just to sum it up, like those are the big changes. I think generally you and I are in agreement that for the most part the changes work to serve the movie version of the story they're trying to tell. Would we have liked to see some slightly different things? Would have loved to see Aaliyah, sure. But what they did was awesome. But
before we get to the end, though, another big change that I think works kind of almost better is the Reverend Mother, Helena Gaius, whatever her name is, Helena Bonham Carter. She's more involved in the killing of Duke Leto than she is in the book. Like they have a scene where she, with we haven't even talked about Princess Irulan.
Oh yeah, of course.
When
and Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Princess Irulan is talking to the Reverend Mother and is like, "Hey, you advised my dad to get rid of House Atreides." And you also see her. She is the one that talks to the Baron in part 1 and is like, "Protect Lady. I don't want Lady Jessica and Paul hurt." And that's why they do the leave him for the desert. Yeah. Whereas in the book, that scene doesn't happen. He's worried that if he talks to a truthsayer, he'll have said like, you can't kill royalty. Like it's like against the rules. It's like bad form. So that's why like that little change sort of makes a little bit more sense to me in the movie, to give her more of a connection to the treachery and for protecting Paul and why they didn't kill them.
And the Bene Gesserit overall, to give them even more, like that was an even more like or explanatory scene of the plans they've been putting together, these plans within plans. Yes. Because it's I think talked about more explicitly in the book in different ways than it is in the movie, because so much else has to happen in that 12-hour movie that we just watched. So they had to have those scenes of like,
and it's like, hey, we've been managing.
The Emperor wasn't going to do it unless I told him to do it. So of course.
We've been managing this bloodline forever, and they're pains in the asses. So let's just start over.
We've done it before. We've killed other bloodlines before. Like, all
which
of
is
that
which again, as I'm saying all this stuff out loud, is that a little contradictory, I guess, because she also wants to keep Paul around. So she's not 100%
She's covering all of her bases.
She's sort of leaving Paul. I mean, it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So
anyway, the big changes on the end, right? So the end is way different. We don't get any Spacing Guild members.
No.
We immediately go to Holy War. You know, in the book, for those that haven't read the book that want to know, the great houses all come, and Paul's like, I'm gonna destroy all the spice if you don't like back me. And they're like, I don't know. And then the Spacing Guild's like, dude, he's gonna kill all the spice. You're the new emperor now. And then that's it. And he does, and he also spends more time with Chani and says like, yo, like, I love you. I'm sleeping with you.
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping with her. This is a marriage of convenience. Whereas this, it's more like, he still says, I love you. I'll always love you. But he never...
But he doesn't talk to her about it.
Talk to her
what
about
they're gonna
it.
Do.
And that scene.
Oh.
When he is with Princess Irulan and everyone bows when she takes his hand. And Chani's still standing.
Just Chani.
And there's that Chani 3-shot. And you're like...
Oh, it's such a good shot.
Form
you're right.
and
That's
content are coming together, my friend.
Beautifully. Beautifully. It really was great. And even though he looks back to her, the second time he looks back to her, with what is intended to be like, it's supposed to be like love in his eyes. Like, but it could also, I don't know, like it is not as clear to her as it should be. I don't know.
And he's different. Once he takes the Water of Life, he is not the same, because if you could see the future, it would change you forever. Like you are a prisoner to your visions. There's no spontaneity. There's no like, oh, I'll stay. He can't stay with her. He can't be nice to her. He's seeing the future. He knows she has to leave.
Well, he also knows that she comes back, though. He says in his visions that she has a rough time, but she'll come back.
He knows it's going to work out, but he knows she has to leave at this. If you have that kind of prescience is the word. I add an S. Prescience.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Prescience. It doesn't matter. Every time I talk about it in my house, I'm like, a lot of these words, like you talked about, Lisan al.
You read it,
and
right.
Like I've seen it so many times, and like
it's
someone makes you say, you're like, oh my god.
Yep.
But if you have that kind of vision, where you see every step, even one step off will change the thing,
and
you're locked into doing those things, and you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like he can't. I don't know. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it.
But I mean, the fact that they just end with was that the last line of the movie? Is the Holy War has begun? Like,
yeah, I think.
Yes,
I think you're right. Aaliyah is talking. Aaliyah is talking to the mom. She's like, "Hey, what's going on out there?"
Right.
She's like giving her a play-by-play.
Even
right now, your brother Paul is just attacked.
There is the one like shot of the baby putting its hand up against.
Yeah,
I guess the embryonic site. Like it was weird. But no, there's that. I will also say this is such a small detail, but in the book, there's so many of his visions of like the bloodshed across the galaxy, billions of people dying under his banner, and then throughout this movie, they just have these literal banners throughout.
Yeah, the Atreides banners everywhere.
Yeah, which I thought was really, I don't know, like I don't know as a viewer who doesn't. I don't know why I got so much out of that. I don't know why that connection of the metaphorical / like vision version of like these literal banners, and then seeing that happening in real time in front of him just like really got me. But I thought that connection worked so well.
I think in twofold, right? So it gets you as the visions. I'm going to see all this blood in my name and the banners and all of that stuff. But also as a straight up viewer, this is like a perfect revenge fantasy.
Yeah,
like you watch this movie and you see all the horrible things that happen to House Atreides, and then you see House Atreides rise up. Like even that on its surface is like, that kind of that's a kind of war you would follow, right? You would sort of pledge yourself to Paul, and you sort of find yourself loving the bloodshed
Yeah.
Which is the lesson, because you're going to become part of this horrible,
the thing that causes all
the
that.
thing that's going to come by.
But all of those revenges, those moments of revenge, like we got Gurney getting to kill the Beast
Raban, yeah.
That we had the fight between Paul and
Fade
Rautha, and then also Paul killing the Baron.
Mm-hmm.
Each of those were really short scenes. They were really
very short,
quick moments.
The Baron one almost too short.
That was way too short. The fight with Gurney. I guess they kept showing it.
I meant Gurney and
Gurney's
Raban, not I said the Baron.
I thought the
that fight was way too quick. Like he just walks up and stabs him and
stabs the Baron. Yeah. Well, it was actually funny, and people laughed as the Baron looks at the empty throne and starts trying to climb up the stairs, which was without the big tensor things holding him.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. But that was very quick. All three of those were super
Raban
quick.
is what I'm trying to say, not
but
the Baron.
that was, they did this thing with him, which I guess you don't really see it in the first movie because you're just like figuring out who the Harkonnens are, and they're all like monstrous and terrifying. But in this movie, you see more of Raban, and he's a coward. He's just running away from everything the whole time.
He's a huge coward, which I feel like undercuts him a bit.
Only because it works, because then you see Fade, and you're like, oh no, he's what you think that Raban is. So if you thought Raban was here, and he's like the worst you could possibly be, it's like, we got something else for you. Worse. So it worked really well.
But what
I
mean is, like, he is a coward through the whole thing, and when he fights and he's running away, but then it's like, Gurney is like, he gave me this scar and he killed my family. You know what I mean? Like, he's not like, he seems like it takes away some of his menace. Like, I would have liked to have seen maybe more scenes with Raban being more formidable. Gurney is such a tough character that, like, for him to lose so badly to Raban, who we've seen as just kind of like a weak guy that would run away as soon as the Fremen attack.
Here's the thing that we don't ever see, obviously, what happened with them and what their fight was. Raban actually feels like a cruel person who only has his power with other people around him. So who knows? You could imagine instead that Gurney was like defeated by 12 people and held down, and then Raban.
And I'm sure that's how it.
Which is kind of how it would be. But anyway, that went really quickly. I thought the duel between
in the book, before we jump off, like in the book, from what I remember, that scar he gets in a Harkonnen fighting pit, like. Gurney's like in a slave camp or something, and he's forced
that's
to
right.
fight.
Yeah, they don't talk about that in the movie at all.
Not from Raban.
Right. Anyway, so I know we've skipped around and we've been talking about this for like 3 days, I think, so far.
Yeah.
But the fight between the duel between Fade Rautha and Paul.
Ben like a reed. Yeah, that was great, because like I don't remember Paul getting stabbed as much.
I don't think so.
I don't know if he does. Like, that was another thing, because I'm so used to the David Lynch version, having seen that so many times, and I've read the book a lot, but I can't remember.
Well, there's the whole poison blade thing that he does in the book, which he doesn't do in this,
right?
Because I don't think Paul doesn't get stabbed with the poison blade, does he? No, he defends himself.
He bends like the reed, or does all that business, and then.
Well, what I thought was beautiful,
gets stabbed with the blade.
What was beautiful with this was the fight was great. It was interesting. It was well choreographed. It wasn't one of those like super quick cut fight scenes where you can't really actually tell what's going on, except like I guess people are fighting. You could actually see them having the fight.
It was great.
Paul actually felt kind of clumsy in the fights, which were really good. And when he gets stabbed, and then they have the two shot of just like shoulder up, you don't know what's happened, and the audience that I was with was just like, oh God, Paul just got killed.
Right.
And then it pulls back and you see that he actually pulled the blade out.
And for anyone that hasn't read the book, like, and
it's a great misdirect.
My wife, when she was watching it, she wasn't sure he was dead. And she's like, oh, maybe the next movie is all his sister. Like, she doesn't know.
Yeah.
So they did that really well.
Beautifully done. Really skillfully done.
Very good stakes.
Yep.
I liked the end a lot. Except, again, I feel like it was very rushed, in that they were just completely out of time. Like,
you
all of a sudden all the houses are there, and then it's like instant war. Now, there's no like Paul saying, "Do you know that he killed my father. This is Paul Atreides. Like, there's no talking to the houses to try to explain the situation. He tells the Emperor they may like to hear my side of the story. He never tells them his side of the story.
Well, we don't really know. I think you're right, but we don't really know the message that was sent to them.
They're immediately flying planes to just start. Like, it's like it goes from 0 to Holy War.
Yeah.
Whereas in the book, it's not like that at all. Again, it's like 12 years later, and so you hear about all the things that happen, right? Yeah. Which is fine. Again, if you think about it, where he sees the vision, he knows this is the only way, then why prolong what has to be done? So
yeah.
And I would have loved to have seen the Guild Navigators.
We have just folded space from X.
I think we're going to see.
We're going to see that. We have to see one of them in
the third movie,
in the next one. Yeah, but I wanted them to be there, and I guess if they were there, because they also have prescience, that they would know where the path is going to, and they would have stopped the Holy War from happening. Whereas we couldn't have them there to do that because we need we need the other houses to come under attack.
I mean, we talked about this last time we talked. When the trailer dropped, we talked about this in our Accidental Dune podcast, but I don't recall in the first book, we don't really spend any time with the Spacing Guild. Like, it's mentioned, we understand how it works, they tell us the mechanics of it.
They're a big part of the end,
That's
right?
it.
So the end, they show up, and they're calling the shots. So they're like, they move House Atreides initially to Arrakis. We hear about them. And then at the end, they show up, and they shut shit down. And they're like, this guy will destroy the spice, like, do whatever he says. And everybody listens to them. So, like,
and I think if we had tried to do that in this movie, it probably would have been too much for this film.
Probably. You needed another couple hours.
You can spend so much more time, spend so much more time in a book because you can get through things quickly just by explaining them, where in the movie you have to do so much showing to explain.
It's fine.
And I think it would have overly complicated it.
Yeah, no one will ever be 100. I'll never be 100% happy. That's why I have the book.
To actually
read
see
the book.
them. Yeah.
But you make those choices and they worked. It's fine. I will say, like, the spice itself, I don't know if you really get a sense. If you didn't read the book, I'd be interested. Anyone listening to this or watching this that has not read the book, of how important it is. Like, it is what makes Mentats possible. It is what makes the Bene Gesserits possible. It is what makes space travel possible. Like,
they set it up to some extent in the first movie
without it. They do, but
not enough.
That's what's so great about the end of the book is, like, they're like, like, I feel like the spice has more weight. That it prolongs life, but also if you get addicted to it, you die. If you don't take it anymore.
Right.
Excuse me. Maybe you do. Maybe it's just me, because, like, for me, I know already all those things. I would just be curious if you didn't. It's not just oil, it's not like an analog just for, like, oh, you need it for whatever. It's like nothing works without it.
Right.
Like, everything is based off of it.
I think,
Paul is based off of it. Like, if Paul kills the spice, he also loses everything,
and would probably die from. Anyway, we'll see where it goes with the third one. I'm glad that it's been announced, right? It's been officially announced.
It has not been officially announced, as far as I know, but everything says yes. Like, I saw an interview with the cast on something, and they're like, "Oh, where are you at in Dune Messiah?"
I'm halfway through Messiah. Like you, I started a little bit before this one, and I thought, like, I can't get ahead of it yet.
It's a lot.
The tone's different too.
It's different.
So it's like they're reading it.
Yeah,
Denis Villeneuve said, "I want to do it." Like, it's happening. And it seems like it's making money.
He said something that he's done some pre-production for it as well.
Yeah.
Which could be just like he's thought about it and has, like, storyboards or something like that. But, like, it could be I've built out the second movie so that I can reuse a bunch of this for the third, like, in terms of, like,
he
set
has
production.
Said this, and I think it was in Variety or something, that he's doing other movies first.
Oh, wow.
Like, he wants to take time between.
How dare he?
Right. He was like, I did Dune 1, and then all of a sudden never stopped at Dune 2, and he wants to put time, just like in the books, between the events.
Oh, wow.
So
we're going to let Timothée Chalamet get to, like, 30, 35 before we shoot.
So I think it's going to match the second book, like where you talked about seeing the
amount of time,
the Holy War. I have a feeling it'll just start and like, oh, we saw the beginning of the Holy War, and then they'll tell us. I guess
happened.
We'll see. Just like the book.
We'll see in 5 years or so.
Yeah,
great. Cool,
but it's good. I would like to see it again. I feel like if I had maybe another watch, I would have better feedback.
Okay, so we're going to watch it again, and then we'll do another 1 hour podcast on this. Yeah. All right, cool.
The big test for these types of movies, too, is like, does it hold up on your television set?
I think it will.
You know, like, there's something about
the first one did.
That big. Like, will it also work smaller?
I think it'll work. The cinematography, I think, will support it no matter what. Like, it was gorgeous. All right, Eric, we hit an hour for our Doctor Who Dune podcast.
Yeah. I'm sure we have other Doctor Who stuff. Let us know if you liked Dune Part 2, or if you never want to hear us talk about anything other than Doctor Who again. Let us know in the comments. Yeah, let us know.
We'll mark them and you can skip them. They'll be great. All right.
Cool. So let's call this a day.
Thanks, everybody.
Peace.